Court documents show Miller, Michael Davis, and Darius Miles are named in a wrongful death suit. The family's attorneys say they plan to prove the defendants' actions either caused or contributed to the death of their daughter. Harris was shot and killed in Tuscaloosa on January the 15th. The complaint says Miles left a gun in Miller's car and later texted Miller to bring it to him. It goes on to say Miles got the gun out of the car and that Davis fired the shot that killed Harris.
This beautiful young mother was shot 8 times just because she refused to flirt with an Alabama basketball star. Jamea Harris, only 23 years old, had everything to live for. A devoted mother to her 5-year-old son, Kane, a hard worker pulling overnight shifts at Amazon to build a better future, a daughter described by her own mother as an investment she hoped would flourish. But on January 15, 2023, near the University of Alabama campus, Jamea's life ended in seconds when she made one fatal decision. She said no to the wrong man. She was just trying to enjoy her weekend with her cousin that attends the University of Alabama and her boyfriend. It started as a rare night out. Jamea left her son with her mother in Birmingham and drove to Tuscaloosa to visit friends. After leaving a crowded bar on the Strip, she waited in a car for food when a group of men approached. One began dancing around her vehicle, demanding her attention. Her response was simple: "We got a boyfriend? We don't want to talk." Those words triggered anger that would end with former Alabama basketball player Darius Miles, who quickly reached for his gun and handed it to his friend Michael Davis, who fired the first shot. Jamea's boyfriend, Cedric Johnson, fired a defensive shot during the incident. And what happened next was a completely shocking event, all because a young woman exercised her right to say no. This is Crazy Dark Files. We have more crazy cases to bring to light. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an exposed case. Your support lends more voice to the deceased.
The hearing for Darius Miles, the former Alabama basketball player, has just wrapped up. Now, he, along with Michael Davis, are charged in the death of Jamea Harris. Now, Miles's bond hearing started at 9 o'clock this morning, while Davis, he's set for an arraignment and motion hearing that has now been pushed back to July 21st. Now, Davis has requested juvenile status, so right now his case is sealed.
Today, Darius Miles' attorney shared impact statements from people who knew Darius best, hoping that would be enough to get the judge to set a bond for the Alabama basketball star. There were also concerns of Darius Miles being a flight risk, but today we learned that his parents actually moved down to Alabama and are renting a house here to be closer to their son. But unfortunately, that was not enough to get the judge to set a bond. As you can see in this video, you can see Jamea Harris's family exiting the courtroom. It was very emotional. She said that she wishes that her daughter was still here, but she is happy with the results of Darius Miles being denied a bond.
Have you ever rejected someone only to face anger or threats in return? Comment below if you've experienced the dangerous side of saying no. Every night at Amazon, Jamea Harris would clock in for her overnight shift, her thoughts never far from her sleeping 5-year-old son. The 23-year-old mother had built her entire life around Kane Johnson, a bright-eyed boy who loved Connect 4 and always had to win. "We worked well together," her mother DeCarla Hurd explained. "I worked during the day, she worked at night. Between the two of us, Kane was always taken care of." This wasn't just any mother-son relationship. Friends described how Jamea's face would light up whenever she spoke about Kane. Her aunt Tracy Smith put it simply: her son was her world. Every decision Jamea made, from working grueling overnight shifts to living with her mother, was calculated to give Kane the best possible life. Despite the exhaustion of night work, Jamea would stay awake when she got home so she could take Kane to school each morning. Only after dropping him off would she finally allow herself to sleep. This was her routine, her sacrifice, her love made visible through daily action. "She was still a baby. She was still learning about life and how to take care of a family," DeCarlo said. "She was an investment for me. I wanted her to flourish and be a responsible young lady." Those who knew Jamea described a magnetic personality. She wasn't just Kane's mother. She was everybody's best friend. With her infectious energy and kind heart, people naturally gravitated toward her. She made friends easily and brought joy wherever she went. "I want people to know she wasn't a party girl," DeCarlo insisted. "She worked hard, and she wanted to have a good time with her family." That's exactly what Jamea planned on January 14, 2023. After weeks of overnight shifts and motherhood responsibilities, she decided to take one rare evening for herself. She left Kane with her mother in Birmingham and drove to Tuscaloosa to visit her cousin, a student at the University of Alabama. It was supposed to be simple: dinner, maybe a drink, catching up with family, the kind of normal night out that most 23-year-olds take for granted. What Jamie couldn't know was that across town, a basketball player named Darius Miles was having dinner with his parents. His friend Michael Davis was there too. Miles had just been ruled out for the season with an ankle injury. As Jamie was preparing for her night out, Miles' stepfather hugged his son goodbye with a simple instruction: have fun, but be safe. Hours later, these separate worlds would collide with devastating consequences. As Jamea and her cousin Asha Humphrey headed toward the Strip, a popular stretch of bars and restaurants near the University of Alabama campus, they had no idea they were walking into danger. For Jamea, this rare night of freedom was about to become her last. The decision to leave her son for one evening, something mothers do every day without a second thought, would set in motion a chain of events that would leave Kane asking his grandmother a question no 5-year-old should ever have to ask. Tell me how my mama died. The alarm rang at 6:30 a.m. Despite having worked all night at Amazon, Jamea Harris never hit snooze. This was her sacred time with Kane, the morning routine that anchored their relationship. She brushed her teeth, splashed water on her tired face, and transformed exhaustion into energy for her son. After dropping Kane at school, Jamaica finally collapsed into bed, sleeping through the day while her mother took over childcare duties. By evening, she was up again, a few precious hours with Kane before heading to another overnight shift. This relentless cycle defined her existence, yet Jamea Harris was more than just her motherhood. At 23, she carried dreams that extended beyond raising Kane, though he remained at the center of everything. She was a Winona High School graduate with ambitions. Friends described her as smart and determined, someone who saw her current situation as temporary, a stepping stone to something better. I was still raising her, DiCarlo explained. She was still learning about life and how to take care of a family. What made Jamea remarkable wasn't just her dedication to her son, but how she maintained her spirit through the grind. The young woman, who her mother described as everybody's best friend, somehow preserved her joy despite the punishing schedule. She found moments to laugh, to connect, to be more than just a working mother. So when the opportunity came to visit her cousin Asia in Tuscaloosa on January 14th, Jamea made a decision that countless mothers make every day: to take one night for herself. She left Kane with her mother in Birmingham and drove the 60 miles to the college town, looking forward to a rare evening of freedom. For women like Jamea, these decisions always carry an invisible calculus of risk. The psychological burden of navigating public spaces, especially nightlife, weighs differently on women than men. Every location, every interaction, every rejection must be carefully managed. Most women instinctively understand this reality from their teenage years. What Jamea couldn't have calculated was that her path crossed with men who viewed her rejection not as a boundary to respect, but as an insult-demanding response. As she prepared for her night out, Jamea had no way of knowing that across town, a weapon that ended her life was already in Tuscaloosa. Former Alabama basketball player Darius Miles owned a handgun, one he later claimed he kept for protection after once having a gun pulled on him. That same evening, Miles had dinner with his parents and childhood friend Michael Davis at Half Shell Oyster House. His basketball season had just officially ended due to an ankle injury. As his parents prepared to leave town the next day, his stepfather hugged him goodbye with a warning that proved tragically prophetic: have fun, but be safe. Hours later, Miles texted his teammate Brandon Miller to bring that gun to the Strip after an encounter with Jamea and her friends. The text read that someone was faking, a term Miles' attorney later claimed meant threatening.
The gun allegedly used in a deadly shootout in Tuscaloosa, Alabama last month involving Alabama men's basketball players was reportedly brought to the shooting by freshman star Brandon Miller, and that's according to law enforcement testimony at a preliminary hearing on Tuesday. Now, according to police, Miller was asked to bring his gun to teammate Darius Miles and another man, Michael Lynn Davis, on January 15th. Now, Miles and Davis are facing capital murder charges after they allegedly opened fire at a car and killed a 23-year-old woman in an area called the Strip near the University of Alabama campus. When Miller got to the scene, Miles told Davis, quote, "The heat is in the hat and there's one in the head." And that's referring to the gun having arrived with a round in the chamber. Detective Brendan Culpepper testified, according to AL.com. Now, Miles also admitted to police that he gave Davis the gun. Miles was dismissed from the Crimson Tide following the arrest, not long after his junior season ended early due to an ankle injury.
But on that evening, as Jamea drove to Tuscaloosa, all she knew was that she was looking forward to a night with her cousin. She FaceTimed her mother accidentally from the car, laughing as Kane tried to cheat at Connect 4. Before hanging up, she told her son he was being silly. Her mother's final words to her daughter were simple: "I love you." Neither imagined these were the last words they ever exchanged. At 8 p.m. on January 14th, DeCarla Hurd sat in her living room playing Connect 4 with her grandson when her phone lit up. Jamea Harris had accidentally FaceTimed her mother while driving to Tuscaloosa. Instead of hanging up, Jamea leaned into the moment. "Hey, what are y'all doing?" she asked, her voice filling the living room. DeCarla told her about Kane's latest antics, how he kept cheating at the game, insisting on winning every round. They shared a laugh, the kind of ordinary moment that becomes extraordinary only in hindsight. "Tell him to come to the phone," Jamea said. Kane danced over to see his mother on the screen, his face lighting up at the sight of her. Jamea told him he was being silly, her tone playful and warm. Then Kane ran back to his game, unaware of the significance of this casual exchange. "I love you," DeCarlo told her daughter before they hung up. These simple words, exchanged during an accidental call, became their final conversation, a random moment of connection that neither knew was a goodbye. As Jamie continued her drive to Tuscaloosa, she felt the rare lightness of temporary freedom. For once, she wasn't heading to an overnight shift or managing her son's needs. Tonight was about reconnecting with her cousin Asia Humphrey, a student at the University of Alabama, and spending time with her boyfriend Cedric Johnson. The trio made plans to visit The Strip, a popular stretch of bars and restaurants near Bryant-Denny Stadium. For Jamie, this wasn't about wild partying, it was simply about being 23 years old for one evening, enjoying the company of people she loved. In a normal setting. "I want people to know she wasn't a party girl," her mother later emphasized. She just wanted to see her family. Asia and Cedric represented safety in numbers, the instinctive protection strategy women employ when going out. Asia knew the campus area well as a student, while Cedric provided the physical presence that often deters unwanted attention. Jamea had every reason to feel secure. By 11:30 p.m., the three arrived at the Strip. The area buzzed with energy following Alabama's basketball victory over LSU earlier that day. Students and locals packed the bars, spilling onto sidewalks as they waited in lines to enter popular spots like 1225. Jamea, Asia, and Cedric joined one such line, unaware that just feet away stood several members of the Alabama basketball team, including Darius Miles, Jaden Bradley, and Brandon Miller. The groups didn't interact then, but their paths were set to collide with devastating consequences. While Jamea laughed with her cousin and boyfriend in line, Miles was dealing with his own situation. Earlier that day, the university had announced he was out for the season with an ankle injury. His NBA dreams were temporarily on hold. His parents, who had come to support him, were leaving town the next day. The psychological contrast between these two young people couldn't have been starker. Jamea, a working mother taking one night for herself. Miles, a college athlete processing a career setback with a gun he kept for protection back at his apartment. At 12:08 a.m., Miles and Bradley entered 1225.6. Minutes later, Jamea's group followed. For over an hour, they occupied the same crowded space without incident. Security cameras captured it all: the dancing, the drinking, the normal Saturday night revelry of young people unaware that violence lurked just hours away. What happened inside that bar? Did Jamie catch someone's eye? Did someone feel slighted by a perceived lack of attention? The security footage shows no interaction, but something shifted in those early morning hours. By 1:36 a.m., both groups had left 1225. Jamea and her friends waited in their Jeep for food from a nearby vendor. Miles, Davis, and Bradley walked past the vehicle. Then Davis stopped, began dancing near the driver's side window, and tried to engage with the women inside. This moment, this seemingly ordinary interaction, sparked the chain of events that ended with 8 bullets and a young mother's death. If you were in Jamea's position that night, what would you have done differently? Would you have recognized the danger in a man dancing near your car? Or would you have seen it as just another part of navigating nightlife as a young woman? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. The Strip pulsed with energy that January night. Alabama had demolished LSU 166-66 in basketball earlier that day, and the celebration continued well past midnight. Students and locals packed the bars. By 1:30 a.m., Jamea Harris, her boyfriend Cedric Johnson, and her cousin Asia Humphrey had left 1225 bar. Johnson went to grab food from a vendor across the street, while Jamea and Asia retrieved their Jeep. With Humphrey driving, they pulled up to the corner of University Boulevard and Grace Street, parking with their lights on as they waited for Johnson to return with their order. The night seemed ordinary, just 3 friends grabbing late-night food after a few drinks. Johnson returned to the Jeep with a white bag and climbed into the back seat. They sat idling at the intersection, unaware they were about to become targets. At 1:36 a.m., surveillance cameras captured Darius Miles, Michael Davis, and Jaden Bradley leaving. 1225 Miles walked ahead, adjusting his hood as he passed the Jeep, but Davis stopped. Something about the vehicle, or more specifically the women inside, caught his attention. Davis began dancing in front of the driver's side window where Asia sat. His movements were performative, designed to draw attention. Bradley stood a few feet behind him, watching. When Davis approached the window, the atmosphere inside the Jeep shifted from relaxed to alert. "We got a boyfriend, we don't want to talk," Jamea Harris said through the window. For many women, this is a familiar script, the polite but firm rejection that acknowledges a male presence, the boyfriend, as a shield. It's a strategy women learn early. Invoking a man's claim often works better than simply saying no. But Davis didn't move on. Instead, he pressed closer to the window. "Brother, why don't you be good?" Johnson said from the back seat, his voice calm but firm. Davis responded with words that would prove prophetic. "You don't know who I am. You don't know what I do to you." Miles returned to the Jeep, peering inside. According to later testimony, he claimed to see Johnson receive something from the front seat, possibly food, possibly a gun. Miles then tried to pull Davis away from the vehicle. This rejection triggered something in Davis. For many men, a woman's no isn't processed as a boundary to respect, but as a challenge to overcome. The psychology behind this response has roots in entitlement, in the belief that women in public spaces are somehow available for male attention. When that entitlement meets rejection, especially in front of peers, the response can turn dangerous. Add alcohol, add weapons, add the complex dynamics of status and masculinity, and the situation becomes volatile. By 1:37 a.m., Miles, Davis, and Bradley walked away from the Jeep. But the encounter wasn't over. It had merely paused. Surveillance footage shows Johnson exiting the vehicle, his hand on his hip, crossing the street to speak with another group of men. Meanwhile, Miles texted his teammate Brandon Miller at 1:38 a.m., "I need my joint." Minutes later, he sent another text saying someone was faking, slang for threatening. The Jeep, with Johnson now driving, moved through the area with its headlights off. They turned onto a side street, then back onto Grace Street, making a U-turn that brought them behind Miller's car, which had just arrived on the scene. At 1:43 a.m., Miller pulled up behind Bradley's car. Miles stepped out of Bradley's vehicle and walked to Miller's passenger door. He opened it and reached inside, rummaging through clothes. Miles took the gun and moved his girlfriend to safety, instructing her to go behind a nearby building. He knew what was about to happen. At 1:45 a.m., Davis walked directly to the driver's side of the Jeep, which sat behind Miller's car with its lights still off. Johnson, seeing Davis approach with what he believed was hostile intent, reached for his own gun. The protective words Johnson had spoken earlier, "Brother, why don't you be good?" had done nothing to defuse the situation. Instead, they had triggered a deadly rage in Davis, a rage now armed with Miles' handgun. 8 minutes after their first interaction, the night exploded in gunfire. "You don't know who I am. You don't know what I do. I smack people." These words, spoken by Michael Davis during his first encounter with Jamea Harris and her friends, revealed a mindset that viewed rejection as disrespect. For Davis, being dismissed by a woman triggered an immediate threat response. His words weren't just posturing, they were a declaration of intent. After walking away from the Jeep, Davis didn't let it go. The perceived slight festered as he moved down Grace Street with Miles and Bradley. What began as an attempt to flirt with women in a car had transformed into something darker, a challenge to his ego that demanded response. Miles, sensing trouble, texted his teammate Brandon Miller, "I need my joint." The gun, which Miles later claimed he kept for protection, was in Miller's car. As Miller arrived on Grace Street, the situation escalated from harassment to potential violence. At 1:44 a.m., surveillance footage captured Miles and Davis approaching Miller's Dodge Charger. They opened the back passenger door and reached inside. Their conversation, later revealed through audio evidence, was chilling in its casualness. "The heat is in the hat," one said. "Is there one in the head?" the other asked, referring to a bullet in the chamber. "You know it is," came the reply. In just 8 seconds, the gun changed hands. Miles immediately moved his girlfriend to safety, taking her behind a nearby building, a telling action that showed he anticipated violence. Davis, now armed, disappeared briefly between buildings before emerging onto Grace Street. Meanwhile, Jamea sat in the passenger seat of the Jeep, which had pulled up behind Miller's car with its lights off. What was going through her mind in these moments? Did she sense the danger approaching? Or did she believe the earlier confrontation had ended? As a mother, her thoughts likely drifted to Kane during moments of stress or fear. Did she have a premonition that she might never see her son again? Did she feel trapped in the vehicle as Davis approached, or was the danger still invisible to her? At 1:45 a.m., Davis walked directly to the driver's side of the Jeep where Johnson sat. According to testimony, he approached with purpose, gun in hand. The man who had earlier boasted, "I smack people," was now prepared to do much worse. In those final moments before the shooting began, did Jamea Harris know she would never see her son again? The first shot shattered the night at 1:45 a.m. Witnesses scattered in panic. Surveillance video shows people running in all directions, ducking behind cars, sprinting away from the strip. A white car swerved across the middle turn lane, jumped the curb, and sped away. According to police testimony, Davis fired first into the Jeep. Johnson, who had his own gun, returned fire. In the chaos, Davis was hit in the shoulder, but he continued shooting as he ran across Grace Street. Video shows Davis running into an alley behind the Houndstooth Bar, firing backward toward the Jeep as he fled. These wild shots, fired erratically while running, proved fatal. At least one bullet struck Jamea Harris in the face as she sat in the passenger seat. He started shooting erratically, bullets going everywhere, DeCarla Hurd later recounted from police reports. He said he was running away, shooting backwards at the car. "That's when the bullets struck my daughter." In the passenger seat, Jamea's life ended instantly. The 23-year-old mother who had kissed her son goodbye hours earlier was gone. The bullets also struck Miller's car, shattering his windshield in 2 places. As gunfire erupted on the strip, 5-year-old Kane Johnson slept peacefully in his grandmother's house in Birmingham. The little boy who had cheated at Connect 4 earlier that evening had no idea his world had just collapsed. His mother, who worked overnight shifts to provide for him, who stayed awake to take him to school each morning, who built her entire life around his needs, was gone. Johnson, with Jamea's body in the passenger seat, managed to maneuver the Jeep away from the scene. He drove until he spotted police at the Walk of Champions in front of Bryant-Denny Stadium. By the time officers approached the vehicle, Jamea Harris was beyond help. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Miles and his girlfriend, meanwhile, picked up the wounded Davis at an intersection and drove him to University Downs Apartments. Miles called 911 to report a gunshot victim, but his story kept changing. First, he claimed Davis had shown up wounded and he didn't know what happened. Then he admitted they were downtown together. Finally, he acknowledged picking up Davis after the shooting, but denied seeing it happen. While Jamea's life ended, the lies were just beginning. DeCarla Hurd woke suddenly at 3 a.m. Something felt wrong. She checked her phone. No messages from Jamea. She tried calling, but the phone went straight to voicemail. A mother's intuition is rarely wrong, but DeCarla told herself not to worry. Jamea was with her cousin and boyfriend. She was safe. Still, sleep wouldn't return. DeCarla paced her Birmingham home, checking on Kane, who slept peacefully, unaware that his world had already changed forever. At 7 a.m., the knock came. DeCarlo opened her door to find police officers standing on her porch. Their faces told her everything before they spoke a word. "There's been an incident involving your daughter," one officer said. DeCarla's legs gave out. She collapsed against the doorframe as they explained that Jamea had been shot and killed in Tuscaloosa. The officers spoke of an altercation, of gunfire, of a young man named Michael Davis who had pulled the trigger. But these details washed over DeCarla like white noise. All she could think about was the sleeping 5-year-old down the hall who would wake up expecting his mother to call, as she did every morning. "How do I tell him?" she asked the officers. "How do I tell a child his mother is gone? There is no protocol for this, no script to follow." The officers left, and DeCarla sat alone in her living room, waiting for the moment Kane would wake up and ask for his mother. When he did, DeCarla gathered him in her arms. "Baby, Mama's not coming home," she said, her voice breaking. Kane looked at her, confusion in his eyes. "Where is she?" "She's in heaven now." "Why?" How do you explain to a 5-year-old that his mother died because a man couldn't handle rejection? How do you make sense of senseless violence to a child who still believes in monsters under the bed but can't conceive of the real monsters who walk among us? "Baby, I don't know what happened," DeCarla told him. "I just know he was a bad guy." In the days that followed, Kane's questions became more specific, more heartbreaking. He wanted details, as if understanding exactly what happened might somehow bring his mother back. One morning, as DeCarla helped him get dressed for school, Kane looked up at her with eyes too serious for a child his age. "Tell me how my mama died," he said. DeCarla froze, the small t-shirt still in her hands. What could she say? That his mother died because she said no to a stranger? That she was killed for protecting her boundaries? That the world is sometimes cruel to women who refuse to smile on command? "She was shot by a bad man," DeCarla finally said. "But she loved you very much. She still loves you." Kane nodded, processing this information with the strange resilience of children. Then he asked the question that haunts DeCarla still. "Will the bad man come for me too?" "I want people to know she wasn't a party girl," DeCarlo insisted in every interview after Jamea's death. "She worked hard. She was a good mother. She just wanted to see her family." This became DeCarla's mission, to protect her daughter's legacy from those who would reduce her to a cautionary tale about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Jamea Harris wasn't just in the wrong place. She was exactly where she had every right to be, enjoying one evening of freedom after endless days of responsibility. The contrast between how Jamie was valued in life and how she was treated in death is stark. While alive, she was a devoted mother, a loving daughter, a hard worker with dreams beyond her current circumstances. In death, she became a footnote in a story about basketball players and their futures. When Brandon Miller, who delivered the murder weapon, continued playing basketball for Alabama, the message was clear. Some lives matter more than others. Miller was introduced at games with a pat-down routine that mimicked a police search, even as Jamea's body was being prepared for burial. "It's just disrespectful," DeCarla said of Miller's continued presence on the court. "It's like they're making a mockery of it." While Darius Miles and Michael Davis sat in jail cells charged with capital murder, Miller was named SEC Player of the Year and SEC Tournament MVP. He was drafted second overall in the NBA draft, signing a multi-million-dollar contract with the Charlotte Hornets. For Kane Johnson, there was no such future. Instead, there were therapy sessions where he drew pictures of his mother in heaven. There were nights when he woke up crying, asking for a mother who would never return. There were Connect 4 games with his grandmother instead of his mom. "She was an investment for me," DeCarla said of her daughter. "I wanted her to flourish and be a responsible young lady." That investment was cut short by 8 bullets on a cold January night. The dreams Jamea carried, for herself and for Kane, died with her on Grace Street. What does justice look like for a mother whose only crime was saying no? Is it prison sentences for Miles and Davis? Is it accountability for those who enabled the violence? Or is it something more fundamental, a world where women can exist in public spaces without fear, where rejection doesn't trigger deadly rage? Jamea Harris was more than a victim. She was a mother, a daughter, a dream unfulfilled. Her story isn't just about how she died, but about how she lived, with love, with purpose, with her son at the center of everything. For Kane Johnson, now growing up without his mother, that's the legacy that matters most. When a woman says no, it should be the end of the conversation, not the beginning of a tragedy. Jamea Harris paid the ultimate price for setting a boundary, a price no one should ever have to pay. Her story reminds us that behind every headline about violence against women is a real person with dreams, responsibilities, and people who love them. Jamea Harris left behind more than grief. She left a 5-year-old boy who will grow up with questions that have no satisfying answers. While some involved in her death went on to fame and fortune, her son Kane must navigate life without the mother who structured her entire existence around his well-being. True justice isn't just about court verdicts. It's about creating a world where women can exist safely in public spaces, where rejection is respected, and where a mother's life is valued more than a basketball game. If this story moved you, please hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode that brings awareness to these important issues. Like and share this video to help spread Jamea's story, because the more people who understand the real human cost of violence against women, the closer we get to preventing the next tragedy. Your support helps us continue shining light on stories that deserve to be told. Remember, awareness is the first step toward change.